Film? Okay.
If you're ready, because my friend over there in the red jacket, he's going through a crisis in life. he's very depressed. As you can see, he's got his hands in his pocket because he's uncomfortable. Okay. So he just needs some advice. If you just, you can change. You might possibly change his life around and make him a happy man. Because right now he's quite miserable. Yeah.
What's the advice? I get questions everything from hookups, Instagram, breakups,
You're dealing with everything.
sex work, everything.
Okay, let me ask you a question. What are the, let's say, the most common problems you face as a sex worker? Like, what are the issues that societal issues that you keep coming up?
There's a lot.
Go on, yeah.
I would say, if I could boil it down to maybe a few, I would say people not trusting their instincts.
Yeah.
People feeling like there's a certain way to be sexually, whether that's their family that told them, or a partner that's told them, or usually multiple people, sources, and then...
What do you mean by that? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Oh, no, thank you. That's so nice of you. Thanks.
Is that not mine?
Are you sure?
No, that's so nice of you. That's very nice.
You gotta be comfortable with the conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
If you need anything, let us know.
Oh, that's so nice.
Thanks.
Okay,
Nice.
thanks.
Thank you.
Carry on,
Sorry.
No, it's fine. No problem.
Thank you. Go ahead. Sorry.
So you were asking what do I mean by messages that we're told?
No. Give me more like a case study. So you're saying people are maybe they're not aware of, they're not confident in themselves, or what is it exactly? They're being told by multiple sources that what are they being told?
Yeah, confident in themselves is another way to look at it. I look at it that one of our biggest challenges that people tell us how we're supposed to be about sex or our bodies or how we're supposed to perform or not perform or feel or not feel. And we quickly believe that, sometimes at age 3 or 4 or 5 or 15 or 30, whatever it is. And it's hard to shake that. And so you might have an instinct like, I just want to masturbate. And that might be your thing. But some people are like, you should also be wanting to get married to this type of person and be having this type of sex with them once a week or twice a week. But you might be thinking, I just want to masturbate. Whatever it may be, you have your own beliefs about what works for you.
Is pornography a big theme here in your work? Because
not necessarily.
Is it not?
No.
So
people certainly use pornography. It doesn't come up. But I think that usually people have more questions around interpersonal. And porn is usually not interpersonal. If porn is in some way interpersonal, it's more the interpersonal reaction of someone's, coming up against what works or doesn't work for them or someone else.
If I could ask you a question, do you find that there's in terms of males and females, age groups, different demographics, who seems to be like, let's say for example, tends to exhibit the most insecurities or problems, or are there any specific classes of people that you can say, okay, these individuals keep coming up?
I think a lot of people who have had to think about their sexuality or their gender or their sexual expression or gender identity. It's not that they or we don't have issues around confidence and all this we're talking about, but they have been dealing with it front and center and sort of being challenged their whole lives in some way around it. So in a lot of ways, people who are queer or gender non-conforming or transgender, in a lot of ways we have to regularly challenge from family and other folks in the world, challenge ourselves, or people are challenging us. But that said, I really feel like one of the misconceptions is that men and women and people of different genders are extremely different, but it's more, I believe that we're socialized differently. So there are tons of men who come up here and are crying within a minute or a couple of minutes because they're sharing something with me that they've never shared with anyone.
What kind of things do they? I mean, you talked about, for example, the homosexual community, right? Are the challenges faced by the homosexual community different from those faced by straight people, for example? What kind of challenge? What are the differences, similarities, and differences between the two communities?
There are certainly many. I mean, but in other ways, there's not, right? So everyone is dealing. Not everyone. Many people are dealing with things like social media, and feeling like.
Is that a big theme then? Social media, is that something which
I wouldn't even say no.
Okay.
Just use as an example.
Right, okay.
So, people regardless of their sexual orientation,
Yes.
we're dealing with similar things. Sometimes people who are straight maybe are dealing with, feeling like they can experiment less sexually because people who are queer are given, in some regards, given more permission around being more exploratory sexually.
I would have thought, sorry to interject, I mean, just from a simple biological perspective, that would not be the case. In the sense that obviously a man and a man can't do as much as a man and a woman can do. Wouldn't you? No, I mean, just by virtue of the fact that there's more, there are differentiated entry points, if you like.
Oh.
No, isn't that right? I mean, am I right?
I'm not laughing at you. I just think it's interesting. I haven't thought of it that way. I mean, I see it 100% differently.
Yes. No, I have to make you see it this way. Yeah.
If sex is more than penis and vaginal canal, or penis and anus, or penis and throat, or whatever it may be, right? Or clitoris and because people are sexual in so many different kinds of ways. For example, two people looking at the same computer screen. Two people.
Would you consider that sex if they're masturbating to the same computer screen?
If they want to call it sex, that's great.
Okay, so how do you define sex?
So sex is a complicated word because it has different meanings in terms of noun, in terms of sex characteristics.
Okay.
And then there are things that people do that are sexual with each other that people may consider sex. People may consider solo sex or masturbation sex. I like to really let people make those definitions for themselves.
You're quite a postmodernist yourself, then.
I'm sorry?
You're quite a postmodernist, then. You think outside the box, in a sense, yeah?
I've just noticed that, as I said before, the first thing that we talked about was that, one of the biggest issues that I see people having are people believing certain scripts or certain ways to be sexually, and I don't.
Yes.
If I end up suggesting that somebody really should act a certain way.
I mean, there must be parameters that you put in place. I mean, how would you feel about bestiality, for example?
Great question. So you'll notice if you study sort of taboo topics, right? Things that we in this moment in 2018, maybe in the U.S. or Western world, certain places.
Is it true that in the U.S. there are some states which allow bestiality?
So, let me finish.
Yeah.
So you'll notice that if you study things over time, or even if you just look at 2018 versus 2010, 2008, right? We'll see that certain things are normalized and other things are not.
Yes.
Fortunately, a lot of people would say that we're trending towards greater consciousness and awareness and conscious actions. So, in that sense, one of the things that's on a lot of people's, minds in the United States at least is consent. And so, when we talk about non-humans, living beings that are non-human.
Yeah. What's your view on that?
Well, one of the things, among others, that we often talk about is consent. And especially when I work in other countries, not so much sex with non-humans here, with animal non-humans in the United States doesn't come up that much, but certainly when I work in other countries, it does come up, and it comes up a lot.
Does it really? So what kind of countries does it come up in? I mean, that's quite interesting.
Well, I usually like to not name certain countries because sometimes people have beliefs about which countries are a certain way, which countries are
no problem. Yeah.
Tell us, just out of curiosity.
Maybe he wants to know.
I would say if we weren't, the cameras weren't here and whatnot, I would, but I just like my...
I understand. You don't want to incite anything.
I don't want to suggest that,
No problem.
Yeah, but it comes up in certain areas of the world where
this is the thing. This is the question. Like for our paradigm.
Yeah, I'm curious. Do you have a question? Because
No. So obviously I'm a Muslim, right? I'm a believer of scripture. I'm scripturalist, if you like, traditionalist. And it's not just Muslims that have parameters that are finely or very much defined by scriptures. It's also Christians, Jews, lots of different, like you were talking about, kind of. I think you implied it in some of what you were saying. So obviously for us, it's a matter of looking at the text and seeing, okay, well, this is in accordance with God's will, and this isn't in accordance with God's will. So it's very much divine command theory, if you like. We believe that the authority goes to the text, and therefore we act in accordance to it, right? So it's much more rigid, if you like. These are the parameters, right? You can't go, for example, homosexuality in Islam is not permissible. Obviously in Judaism and Christianity, it's not permissible. You can't have sex with another man, or or a woman having sex with another woman. In fact, Islam wouldn't define a woman, pleasuring another woman as even sex, frankly, right? Because there's very key definitions. For instance, sex would be seen as either penetration from a vaginal sense or an anal sense. These two things would be seen as sex in Islam.
What about oral?
That wouldn't be seen as sex, no. It would not. It's something extra, something else, but it's not sex in the strict scriptural sense. So from that perspective, we have very strict guidelines and things like that. But pardon? It's not. Yeah, it is. Anal sex is not allowed in Islam, but it is considered sex.
Okay.
Yeah. Just sorry. Thank you for the clarification. It's not allowed whether it's from man to man or man to woman, right? Or woman. No, I was going to say woman to man, but it's not possible, right?
That's very possible. It happens all the time. It's actually. I would say
Go ahead, yeah.
that in a lot of the sex shops here, it's one of the most common classes that we teach about.
Go on.
So women having anal sex with men, where the woman is penetrating the man. It's
But-
one of the most common.
It's a bit unusual. It doesn't undermine lesbianism in a sense, right? Because if a woman is strapping on, sorry to say, right?
No. You
Right.
don't have to apologize to me.
But if she's doing that, then doesn't that kind of, in a sense, undermine sexual lesbianism, if you like? Because sexual lesbianism is all about, kind of being attracted to the female organs, in opposed to obviously male sexual organs. But if you're trying to emulate male sexual organs, then it would kind of imply somehow that you're sexually attracted to them. So maybe that women that do that, couldn't they be accused of some kind of bisexualism? Not even accused of it. Isn't that veering into bisexualism in a sense?
I mean, that's assuming that we're assuming there that putting on, some penetrative tool or toy is phallic in some way, or that it has the shape of a penis, or that it's supposed to represent a penis. There's a lot of, I think maybe assumptions kind of built into that. And so,
what's your view on?
Here's the thing.
Right.
The anus has a gang of nerve endings.
Okay.
And
so does
human
the
male,
human heart.
human female,
Yeah, sorry, I
transgender
apologize.
person, dog, cat, right? The anus is a sensitive area, and for a lot of people it will feel good. For some people it will not feel good. For a lot of other people it will feel great. So whether it is themselves, another partner, a partner who's male, a partner who's female, a partner who's transgender, a partner who they can't see and they don't know is this a man or a woman or a transgender person stimulating my anus, their anus may still really respond.
Can I ask a question? And this is because I was looking at some reports. You used to work for the UN, isn't it? So I was looking at some reports from the World Health Organization, and also we've got in the UK, because I'm from the UK, as you probably gathered from the accent, right? We've got some reports written by the NHS, etc. And what seems to be a common thing that is said, and we're not saying that correlation equals causation, any of that, but we're saying that one thing which is commonly said is that homosexuals, they have a higher propensity to sexually transmitted diseases. In fact, there's some, like the WHO statistics is like 13 times more likely to contract AIDS, 13 times more likely to contract gonorrhea, or whatever it may be, right? So I guess what I'm asking is, if we're doing a social analysis here of homosexual type sex or anal sex, even, not even just a man and a man, it could be a man and a woman even, yeah? If we're doing
Are we talking about anal sex or non-heterosexual sex?
I'm calling it anal sex for now, yeah.
Okay, anal sex.
But also specifically because those statistics are specified to homosexuals, right? Could
Wait,
we?
can you say that again?
Okay, so those statistics that I've just quoted, it's not about anal sex, it's about homosexuals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So could there be a case that homosexual sex, if we're looking at a kind of an aggregate of social pros and cons, could be more harmful than it is conducive?
Could gay sex be more harmful than conducive?
Have you heard of condoms?
Yeah.
Any kind of sex could be. I mean, here's my thing.
But could you just before you say any sex, this point of homosexuals having more likelihood of contracting those diseases, is that a concern for within homosexual circles or?
Well, so let me answer respond to the first part. So I think that one of the things that would be beneficial is to just broaden our understanding of sex. So there's not gay sex, there's not homosexual sex.
Okay.
There are people who get together and do things with their bodies that may hopefully feel good. And so there's not one type of gay sex or not one type of straight sex. It's just people doing things with their bodies that feel good or that maybe feel good, and they get to explore, as you're saying, right? So is I guess your question is when things happen in certain communities, are they concerning to the community?
Yeah, I mean, let's be frank. I mean, all communities have to be somewhat introspective, right? In the sense that, for example, if there are diseases related to certain race groups, I don't think it's racist to kind of clarify that. For example, sub-Saharan Africa, there's more likelihood of there being AIDS. I'm not saying it's for a racial reason, but when we start to kind of look at these things objectively, scientifically, if you like, right? Because science can be very useful in these things, right? All I'm asking is that if there is a spread of disease which is exacerbated in a certain community, doesn't it make sense to question the reasoning for that disease? Yeah. So from that perspective, going back to, because I think the paradigm you're working from is so long as it feels good, it's okay, it's permissible.
No, I wouldn't say that.
So long as there's consent and it feels good, and no one's maybe harming each other. Yeah. No rape or anything like that, right? So if it's kind of like a liberal presupposition. Like.
I wouldn't classify it as liberal.
Why not?
I would just think it's respectful. It's respectful to not harm people or kill people or rape people.
Yeah, I would consider it liberal only because it conforms to philosophical liberalism, right? So, yeah, so in the sense that, you can do whatever you want so long as you don't harm anyone else, right? So, but here, what I'm asking more specifically is, if we can identify a social harm. Harm, yeah, a social harm, which might not be direct, but might be indirect, right? And might be identified when looking at a broad scale kind of time period. So isn't it important for us to kind of question the reasons why this is happening?
I don't think I follow. I'm sorry.
In a nutshell, if we know that the spread of diseases is exacerbated, yes, if a certain kind of sexual experiment is done between men and men, anal sex, shouldn't we question having sex in this way? Okay, let me put it this way, right?
Actually, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Are you trying to convince me of that, or do you want to know my opinion? What are you most interested in?
I think it's a little bit of. I'm kind of
interested more in debating. I'm just trying to see. Usually, people sit down and they have questions about someone they're dating or fucking or whatever it is.
Yes, I know, but I'm trying to understand.
Seems like you're trying to put him in a corner. That's my impression.
Yeah.
It's true though, because that's what you're doing. You're kind of interrogating him. You don't have a specific question. You're just trying to play devil's advocate, trap him in a corner. That's what you're doing.
I'm not trying to.
That's fine. I will say this though. Let's make this your last question, only because I'm only here till 5, and I like to see a lot of people. So
no problem. Yeah.
But your last question then.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is this, right?
Do you have a question? Is it a question or a statement? Let's start there.
Question.
Okay.
All right. My question is simply, if we can identify that X practice,
right,
whatever that practice may be, is causing, is having an effect on society, which might be detrimental, shouldn't we question X practice?
Sure. So you're saying like if men rape women all the time, which happens all the time, you're saying shouldn't we question men raping women? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think anyone questions that. I think everyone knows that. I think that's universally accepted as wrong.
Oh, but you're saying if...
Yeah, most people accept that. That's a wrong thing.
Okay, so you're... So the question is if people... I think it's the same one you just asked a moment ago. Is that right?
Well, let me give you an example, right? You know in the UK, right? Smoking cigarettes. I don't know what the rules are in here, but inside, this is quite a law. I don't know if it exists in this country or not. Passive smoke. So, for example, if I go into this...
yeah, we can't smoke in this
inside.
Park.
Oh, you can't in the park even? Really? Oh, that's interesting. No, for us you can smoke outside, but you can't smoke inside, yeah? So if you go into a restaurant like Starbucks, you can't smoke inside the thing. And the rationale behind that is, well, if you smoke inside,
you're harming someone else. But when you're having sex, someone is deciding. If I have sex with someone walking by, that's me deciding I want to have sex with that person.
No doubt. Yeah, but what I'm saying is this is the analogy I want to draw.
Okay.
With sexually transmitted diseases, not all of them are transmitted through sex, right?
Okay, so with sexually transmitted diseases,
For AIDS, it can be through blood movement, or it can,
through injection,
or even gonorrhea or syphilis. A lot of them can be transferred from other than sex. You can transfer so for example, a mother can transfer AIDS.
No, but gonorrhea or syphilis.
Syphilis or many of those diseases.
How else are gonorrhea? And
What's that one? You got a cold sore, yeah?
That's not. That's herpes.
Herpes, right? So that can be transmitted from other than sex.
Sure.
I'm giving you I'm not sure. I'm not an expert in this. You are, right?
Yeah.
But let's take AIDS as an example, yeah? AIDS can definitely be transmitted by other than sex.
Is that I just in terms of time, I want you to ask your last question, dear boy.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. But do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. If AIDS can be transmitted from other than sex, yeah.
Yeah.
And say, for example, we can identify that homosexual sex creates more AIDS, and that it may
homosexual sex does not create more AIDS. But I really appreciate it, and I know that's just in terms of time. I only have an hour left. I'm here.
Can I ask him 2 questions, just real quick?
We can talk over there.
Yes or no answers. Yes or no answers.
Do you mind asking him once he's standing?
But thank you for your time, man. Thank you. Take care, man.
Yes or no answers.